We're on episode 2 of Saving Penelope, and as you can see, I've got a nice shiny new carburetor on here, and I did replace this plate right there, this plate that the carburetor screws into. The previous owner has done a lot of things to this mower that were wrong, and like I said, every mower tells a story. They tell what was done to them, and they tell you what was done wrong, and often you get them after people have worked on them and they've gotten frustrated, and it won't run, it won't start, it won't prime, that kind of thing, and they just give up on it. And I'm convinced that's what happened here. He kept trying to probably work with the carburetor to get it to prime, and thought, well, it's not sealing back there, let me really torque that down, and etc. So he stripped that. That's why he had to put those nuts on the back of those mounting screws, because if you look at this piece that I took off, that you can see the damage there. There's really not any threads. That's got a few threads, but so instead of taking a chance on this, I just replaced it. It fits on like that, you know, and then the carburetor attaches to it, and it's just held on by 2 screws, one there and one there, but they've been stripped out. And I think that's why I felt he had to use those nuts. But that didn't solve his problem. His carburetor probably wouldn't prime. And so somebody, either a mechanic he hired or somebody, tried to fix this. And this is the plate that came off of it. It fits right there. And I see this all the time. You see those circles around that plate? That is damaged plastic, where he's torqued it and torqued it and torqued it, thinking, why won't this thing prime? I'll just keep tightening it and tightening it and tightening it. And so he's pushed in there. He also did the other typical thing that you hear about on YouTube and other places. They say, well, you got to put 2 gaskets on there. And if you'll notice, he's got 2 gaskets on there, trying to make it seal. But he's mangled the gaskets because it wouldn't prime. And he's screwed in these little screws right here, which attach this plate to the carburetor, and torqued the heck out of them. I had to find some because I got this mower in pieces. This was just laying on there. I think probably out of frustration, he said, "The heck with it," and but at least he included this piece. But it may be too damaged. I don't think so. It's not often that I can't get these to prime by using a method I've described on many other videos. And so we're going to try to save this plate and make it prime, make it work. But if it doesn't work, if there's too much damage on it, I'll find another plate. But you can see the mangled gasket there, and there where the screw went in. And what people don't know, they often don't know, is that these gaskets will leak, and they'll put 1 or 2 on there. And sometimes that works, 50-50 maybe. But then if it doesn't work, what happens is these always fail right here on the bottom level. And you'll see this gasket looks new. So you still see the writing on it. And so he tried, but what you have to do, let me get a pocket knife to try and pop this off, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Hopefully it will be there. It's hard for me to do with one hand, but let me see if I can get under here with this pocket knife. And I'll pop it over there and lift it up there. I'm using the back side of the knife in case I want to save these gaskets. They look like they're too damaged to save, but you never know, so just trying not to damage them too much. All right, so there's, oh, I thought there were 2 gaskets. There's just one. Okay. So there's the new one in there. Let me just, this is torn up. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that away. But there, yeah, you can see there's some of the gaskets still hanging on there, so I'm gonna get that off. The little pins that hold the gasket are still here. Sometimes they'll break off. That looks like that might be some gasket material right there. Yeah, that's some too, so I want to get that off. Oh, darn it, I meant to save that gasket. See if it's still here. Yep, there it is. Okay, here's, part of this is detective work. And see, this is the way it was. This is the way it was on there. It was like that. And there's a lot of pressure put on that to make it seal with these 2 screws that go in there and there. And on the, when you pull your new gasket off, if you look at it, you'll see well, it's hard to tell, but you see, let me put this on my leg. It's so hard to tell in this picture. I can see it, but see this right here? That's where it fails. And if you come up and you look, you'll see it starts sealing right here. See that line? There's a line there. Maybe I can get it in better light. There's a line. Yeah, that's not working. Try it over here. There, okay, you can see it now. So you see that line there? See, that's sealing like it's supposed to. And it's sealing there like it's supposed to. But there are no lines from the ridges going down, and then especially here. That's where the ridges fail. They don't press in enough on that gasket because these plates warp, and then people just start tightening them down, and they end up tearing up this plate there and there, and they just grind into the plastic there with the screws. And what you have to do, let me set the phone down. Hang on a second. So what you have to do is get you some metallic duct tape, just like this. And you cut 2 to 4 little strips. The width of the roll. So you cut a little 1/4-inch strip there and a little 1/4-inch strip there. And then you place that along the top of that. So you got a piece going this way, and then a piece going up there. Make sure you leave a little hole for the air to come out. So you take 1 strip here, 1 strip there, then you do it again. Do another strip there and another strip there. So you got 4 little strips of duct tape. Then you put your gasket on, and that's usually enough. If that's not enough, then put 1 more gasket on. But it usually works. So we're gonna try and do that now. Let me set the phone down and get it over here. Where you guys can kind of see. All right, so I'm looking pretty much the carburetor. So I take my little plate here, and I'm going to put those metallic, it's called metallic duct tape. It's what they use on, heating and air conditioning systems. And it's got an adhesive on the back, so it stays in place. It doesn't fall off as you're trying to put it on there. So I just get a pair of scissors here. That's a little damaged, so I'm going to throw that part away and get that little part right there. It's about 1/4 of an inch. One, and then another one. So there's 2 1/4-inch strips. And it's sometimes difficult to separate the backing from this. So what you do is you get your little box cutter or sharp knife or whatever, and begin to separate this. And it's real hard sometimes to find these edges. There we go, I got it. Okay, so now the backing is separating. And got it there. And now I'm going to cut this in half. Doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to place one there, and then another one like that. I'll show you what I mean. You got to make sure that you bring it all the way over to where that air comes out. You don't want it to interfere with the manifold, air coming through the manifold. I'm sorry, not the manifold, the carburetor. So push that down, and so you can see those ridges. So that means it's adhering to that. And see, what you're trying to do is make a squirt gun. You don't want any, if your squirt gun won't squirt if you got leakage. So you don't want any air to leak out, and that's what you're pumping. You're pumping air. Okay, so now I'm going to put another little piece up here, going this direction, and I'll make sure I leave a spot for the air to come out right at the top, right up there. And this is a little too big, so I'm going to trim it some, so it sort of makes that curve. Okay, I may have cut a little too much, so I'm going to blunt this some, like right there. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to lay this up here, making sure that I have a little space for the air to come out, and make sure I've got it on top of those ridges. It's got to be on top of those ridges in order to seal. Okay, that's not my best job, but that'll do. But to make sure, see, I'm going to do this again. So here's my other one. Cut that in half. Get my little box cutter and separate the backing. It's hard to get it in there sometimes. Let me try the other end. Sometimes you can come in from the side. There we go. So now the backing is coming off. And this time I'm going to start at the top. Where the little hole is supposed to be. I'm going to come down this way. And oh, I don't think I left enough space. There we go. There's a little tiny hole for the air to come out. Press it here with my fingernail. Make sure that ridge is covered. You don't want it to go down in the groove because that's where the air comes out. Not sure, okay. So you want the groove to not be blocked. Let me see if I hear something coming out. think I do. All right, so there we are. Now I'm going to take this new gasket on here, and sometimes these fit easily and sometimes they fit terribly. I'm going to see if it'll just pop on there or not. And I think it may be okay. Yep, that's going on pretty good. Sometimes you have to get a little nail or something to open those little holes up where those pins are. Okay, so let me show you what I've got here. So there is, you can see the little hole that I've left for the air to come out. And now when I tighten this down with these screws, this is going to seal. At least that's my prediction. I'll know that when I push the primer bulb. So let's see what happens. First I'm going to take this plate off because I don't want to mess with that right now. I do not want to lose that screw though, because there's very few screws that fit this piece. So I may screw that screw back in that little hole. Come on, you. Okay, the screw's still there, thank goodness. All right, so now I'm going to put this on here. I've got gas in the tank, and I had pre-lubricated the screws that attach. So I know they're going to go into that carburetor because I've already put them in, lubricated, and then removed them. So I'm going to go ahead and install one now. So I need my 5/16 socket right there, and we'll try this one. See if I can hang on to it. If I can't, then I'll use a little magnet. So we gotta find where it lines up. There we go. I'm hoping that he hasn't ruined this plate by over twisting that stuff, but I think those, I think the duct tape will take care of that. You know, I think it'll still seal without, you know, having these things be super, super tight. Because you don't want to over tighten them too much because you're going into aluminum. And you just strip it out. You strip out your carburetor where these attach, okay? So that one's snug. That one's, I'm just doing, you know, just hand tightness here. I'm not going to worry about this third one up here yet. And now I want to see if this is going to prime. I'm going to get my little flashlight. And so now I can see in the throat of the carburetor. And you're going to see this live and in person here, sort of, at least not in person, but with me, to see if this, we're going to see if you see fuel squirt out of there, out of that, see that upper, see that brass emulsion tube back there? All right, I'm going to put the flashlight in my mouth. Huh. It's so hard to do. Let me try again. Okay, it is not prime.